Hello. Uh, Wanted to share about an experience I had recently that I feel like really sort of was a perfect example of some of the things I've been noticing patterns in myself and patterns within activism that feeds into this level of anxiety, this level of perfectionism, or not being good enough, or not meeting certain standards and expectations, and just creating a sense of never enough, which just feeds into for us white folks this continued sense of guilt and shame. So I went to a um, event last week for it's called White Men for Racial Justice, um, and we broke out into groups. Excuse me, and for it's a group of four white men, and um, one of the one of the men started sharing about their experiences, and first of all, I just want to say I've incredible respect for this individual because he has devoted his life to reparations, and he shared about this. Um, and it's clear that he has put uh, his, like I said, his whole life into this. Um, Something he identifies with, something he's passionate about, something he's very good at, and has done a lot of work in. And at the same time, he said something that really, um, honestly, triggered me, and I started to distance myself a little bit because it was a trigger for me. He said something to the effect of, "If you are not doing reparations work, you cannot call yourself an anti-racist." And I've talked about a little bit of before of this black and white either or thinking that really kind of applies to anything in life, but has certainly been applied to activism and anti-racism, and for us white folks too. And again, I didn't get I don't know this individual. I This was the first time I even talked to him. I don't know if it's there, but what I sense sometimes in statements like that is a sense of righteousness. And I've talked a little bit about before this connection to religious conditioning and religious narratives, and how there are people who believe or think that they have the right way to go about something, right? The way, whatever it is they do or they believe in, they think they have the right way, and therefore, if you don't do it their way, um, it is the wrong way. In a religious context, right, we know about certain theology and beliefs is the right way because the right way is to how we think about a spiritual being and life after death, and right, there's lots of pillars to religious belief, um, and in that context, it's there's a lot at stake there. You need to get it right. We're talking about life after death, which in some religious beliefs it's heaven or hell. So of course there is so much at stake to get it right, because if you get it wrong, um, you're suffering for eternity. So I believe that this, and this isn't totally from me. I want to cite many other people who have made these connections before, especially John McWhorter with his book Woke Racism. But this religious narrative and this sort of I have the right way of going about it, I believe is common among activism. And in Western religion, especially Christianity, these would be like the Pharisees, right? Pharisees, they go around and say we have the right belief and the right approach and everything, and everyone else is wrong and sinful and unclean and all that fun stuff. So that's what that statement felt like. First of all, any sort of if-then statement when we're talking about a belief system or an approach, um, in qualifying as like, if you don't do this, then you're wrong, or if you do this, then you're wrong. No person has that authority. Um, no one has this. No one is on this moral high ground in terms of. I guess in this context, I think, of course, there's exceptions to that. But in this context, to say if you're not doing reparations work, then you're not an anti-racist. Nobody has that authority to say either you are or aren't an anti-racist. And if anyone is pretending or feeling that way, it's really coming from most likely a righteous place. But what it does then for the receiver, unless you're not aware, right, is it conjures up this, oh no, oh, I have to do reparations work now, because if I don't, um, then I won't be seen as an anti-racist. And so it just triggers this shame and guilt for the individual, potentially, um, and can do a couple things, right? For the individual, they might look back on their life, and this, you may have been doing anti-racist work in your whole life, but you hadn't done any reparations work. So all of a sudden, it feels like everything you've done has been invalidated. Um, so I would imagine that would create lots of feelings of, oh my gosh, I've been doing it wrong my whole life, or whatever I've been doing wasn't enough. But either way, it is sort of a shaming, and I don't believe this person intentionally was doing this, but it kind of reveals the conditioning and the systems that are behind here around shaming people into action. So now we carry this shame or guilt around, oh, I wasn't doing enough, or I was doing the wrong things. And now we have to perform to get up to this standard, this level of anti-racism that we weren't at before. The challenge with that too is, what are the standards or expectations for that? Is giving just donating money to reparations enough? Do you have to also go to rallies or protests? Do you have to get involved with policy? What is the standard in which, for just saying, for this person, where you now become anti-racist? What get you there? And I don't really know. Of course, I don't know this person. I didn't talk to them afterwards, but clearly they have this level of expectation, and you are not, in their eyes, an anti-racist until you meet this standard of expectation. But those expectation standards aren't clear. And a lot of times, people walk away with this now expectation standard in their mind, not knowing exactly what it is. And we carry that with us, which, again, just kind of creates this level of anxiety, or hyper responsibility, or and of course perfectionism comes from that, because if we don't know exactly where we're going or what the standard is, we'll always kind of err on the side of perfectionism, because we want to get there. We don't know exactly how to get there or what will get us there, but if we are perfect, then it's likely we will achieve that. And then lastly, I think what this statement represents, and I see this all the time everywhere, is, I think, one of activism's, as a whole, a collective, biggest areas of opportunity is starting to see activism work as a collective effort, not an individualistic effort. And what I mean by that is that statement, if you don't do reparations work, then you're not an anti-racist, is there's this one path, this one way to do it, and that's the right way. Even though within anti-racism there are hundreds of different things we could be doing to end racism, reparations is one of those paths. There are hundreds of other paths, and we need all people on all paths doing all the work. And clearly we need probably more people to do reparations work, absolutely. However, it's all a collective, it's all connected, it's all interconnected. And there are things in other areas of anti-racism that isn't directly tied to reparations work, but still is connected to reparations work, and that's important too. So I did a LinkedIn post about this, and I'll share the image too. But Deepa Iyer has an incredible resource called the Social Change Ecosystem, in which there are many roles that we can play um, in social change work, and of course, there's many different areas we can make an impact. So one thing I'll just be um, talking more and more about is find your role, find what you're good at, find what you value, what are your strengths, and then find that area niche within anti-racism or any social change where you feel called to and where you can make a deep impact. And then just let all that go. Let all the expectations, the if then statements, the you're not doing it right, just let it go. Because people will have that. People will have those standards, and for some people there's there's never enough you can do, and you'll never meet their expectations. And that's true in all areas of life. So something to just let go of in all areas of life. But just let that go. Um, Curious to get your thoughts, comments, and when you take a look at the social change ecosystem, share what you feel your roles are that you can play. Um, but just hope that this resonates. Again, please comment, um, and also reach out. I'm always excited to talk to anyone who's sort of feeling the same way. But until next time, be well. Thank you.